Namaste, I'm Bill Ball, and I will be your guide on this episode of Journeys in India. And this is India. When Mark Twain traveled through India at the turn of the 19th century, he wrote that India is the cradle of the human race, the birthplace of human speech, the mother of history, the grandmother of legend, the great-grandmother of tradition. Our most valuable and most instructive materials in history are treasured up in India only. Join us each week as we explore the entire Indian subcontinent, from Kerala in the south to the Himalayas in the north and all points in between. We'll introduce you to the architecture, history, and culture of one of the most exotic, mysterious, and influential places on Earth. Journeys in India. As a wildlife enthusiast, I'm always thrilled to visit Ranthambore and Keoladeo National Parks. Ranthambore is the tiger park in India, if not the world, and Keoladeo is one of the top 2 or 3 birder destinations on Earth. These parks are a nature lover's paradise. In Ranthambore, I'm going to track a tiger, chat up some friendly birds, and find the most lethal animal in the lake. Then I'm going to visit a small village and learn about a new art form. Finally, it's off to Keoladeo, where I'm going to see colorful kingfishers and elegant storks. One other thing, all the wildlife you're about to see is real. Only the names have been changed. Oh, wrong show. What I meant was all of the wildlife was filmed just like you would see it, on a safari. No tricks or special effects. This is just what you would expect to see. Ranthambore and Keoladeo are located around India's famous Golden Triangle of Jaipur, Agra, and Delhi. The closest airport to Ranthambore is Jaipur, only about 110 miles away. Although Ranthambore is the premier tiger park, there is never a guarantee of seeing a tiger. The odds, though, are quite good here. The tigers are used to seeing jeeps and are not as timid as in other parks. Tigers here are often active in the day, despite being naturally nocturnal. Jeep safaris are scheduled twice a day, early in the morning and mid-afternoon. Midday is not a good time for animal sightings. In the heat of the day, most animals rest or head into the wooded areas where it's cooler. The twice-a-day drives also control congestion in the park. As we begin our drive, our host in Ranthambore National Park, Balindu Singh, explains the history behind the area.
So the fort was very strategically located on trade routes, and it was attacked in the 13th century, 1280s, by a ruler from Delhi. And a siege lasted for 19 years. The siege of Ranthambore lasted 19 years. And that is why the entire forest around Ranthambore is dotted with old monuments.
The fort was built along the ridges of the mountain, which allowed the locals to hold a strategic advantage over the invaders. In the end, though, the long siege took its toll and Fort Ranthambore fell. The fort was abandoned and the people moved on. The old fort, mausoleums, and other buildings lay in ruins today, but the animals have repurposed these crumbling towers and ancient walls, making them a refuge from weather and predators. They are also favorites of photographers visiting the park. One species that makes particularly good use of the ruins is the langurs monkey. These mischievous primates are probably the first animals you'll see upon entering the park. Rudyard Kipling, the author of Jungle Book, also noticed the langurs' love of ruins when he wrote one of the most dramatic moments in the book. Langurs hold a special place in the heart of Indians, as they are the personification of the monkey god Hanuman. He is the hero of the Indian saga Ramayana, where he is instrumental in rescuing Queen Sita from the demons. To prove his devotion, he tears open his own chest to reveal images of Sita and Rama, the king, inside. Of course, the ultimate photo is the tiger sitting on the ruins wall. However, that's extremely rare. Most tigers are spotted by following tiger pugs or paw prints in the road. Experienced drivers and trackers are always watching the soft dirt at the road's edge for fresh pug marks. The roads are ready-made trails for animals as they move from place to place. You're not going to believe what happened next. The tiger actually doubled back and moved towards us. Conservation etiquette and park rules dictate that we keep a distance from the animal. It is important not to stress the tiger by blocking her path. Our guide tells it that this is a young female with cubs. We were very fortunate to spot her on our first drive out. Even at Ranthambore, where tigers are commonly spotted, seeing one this close is a treat. The Bengal tiger is found throughout the Indian subcontinent. Males weigh up to 500 pounds, making them the big cat on anybody's block. Their chief prey is the chital or spotted deer, along with the sambar, langur monkeys, wild boar, and, well, just about anything that moves. Their only known enemy is man. Believe it or not, individuals can be accurately identified by stripe pattern, ear color, and facial features. The tigers in each of the parks are cataloged and studied to determine population trends, predator-prey relationships, and territorial needs. For example, it was discovered that a male tiger needs up to 30 square miles of territory depending on the availability of food. Females require a little less territory and often overlap with the males, which aids in breeding. This information is used to establish park sizes and boundaries, which in turn helps to preserve the tiger. Now, it's hard to imagine a large orange and black cat being able to sneak up on an animal, but that's how it happens. In tiger territory, the early morning and late afternoon light filtering through the leaves and grass creates patches of bright and dark that are mimicked by the tiger's coat. That's the time the cat is lethal. During the day, on the other hand, it's nearly impossible for a tiger to make a kill. So midday is often nap time. This jungle king will also spend time grooming and cleaning his fur. If water is nearby, the tiger, unlike other felines, will go for a swim or just lie in the water and cool off. Protecting tigers in their habitat has become a priority in India since the formation of Project Tiger in 1973. Several national parks, including Ranthambore, were given special protection as prime big cat territory. It is estimated that there are only 3,000 to 4,000 tigers worldwide. India is home to roughly 50% of these magnificent animals. One of those other species that gains from protecting the tiger is also one of the tiger's favorite prey, the sambar. Sambar are the largest member of the deer family in India. About the same size as the North American elk, sambar are striking, especially the males with their impressive antlers. These deer tend to travel in small family groups. Ranthambore also has one of the highest densities of spotted deer. Spotted deer form large harems with a dominant male and several female and young. These large groups can be easy prey. In fact, you can think of them as fast food for tigers. The largest member of the antelope family in Asia is found here as well. It is the blue bull, or nilgiri. The male blue bull actually does have a blue hue to him, giving rise to the name. Like the sambar, they are found in small family groups, favoring the more heavily forested areas. The reason Ranthambore has so much wildlife is its many ecozones. An ecozone is a wildlife habitat, like the grasslands of the Indian gazelle or the forests of the blue bull and tiger. These, in turn, are supported by the incredible wetlands of the park. The wetlands not only provide drinking water for big game, but are also a haven for bird life. Ranthambore is home to over 272 species of birds. That's about the same number of bird species found in the entire U.S. One of the most visible birds in the park is the lapwing. These large and colorful members of the plover family stake out their nesting territory early in the season to increase breeding success. Though great flyers, it is rare to see these birds in the air. They feed and even nest on the ground. Another bird that spends most of their time on the ground is the beautiful painted stork. These long-legged wading birds feed primarily on frogs and snakes that they startle by patrolling the shoreline. The snakes are probably a good reason not to go wading in these waters. One of the most striking members of the stork family, they stand over 3 feet high, making them one of the largest birds in India. Ranthambore's interesting and beautiful birds are not restricted to the water. Terrestrial birds actually outnumber and outsmart their wetland cousins. One of these is the jungle babbler.
The name speaks for itself. These are noisy, brazen birds. Also known as the Seven Sisters because you find them in large family groups, these bright birds will often approach safari vehicles looking for a handout. Another aggressive bird is the rufous tree pie. A member of the corvids or crow family, they are highly intelligent and quite fearless. The locals call them the tiger's toothpick because the bird is reported to pick food scraps right out of the teeth of a tiger. Now that's a daring bird. One of the most rewarding bird sightings anywhere in the world is an owl. Owls are usually nocturnal hunters that rely on their acute sense of hearing to locate and then capture their prey. These Scopes owls are one of the smallest owls in India, only inches tall. They spend their days hiding nearly motionless in holes and branches of trees. They can't compete with the faster flying day hunters like hawks and eagles, but the owl's slower flying wings are highly adapted for night hunting since they are virtually silent, making owls the original stealth bombers. There is one animal that we have not yet seen here in Ranthambore that I particularly want to get a good look at: the mugger crocodile. These crocodiles are biggies that can reach 15 feet long. They spend most of their time in the water, so we head to the river. And coincidentally, that's just where we spot our first croc. The croc relies on the surprise attack to capture its prey. Incredibly patient, it will be motionless for hours waiting for an unwary bird or a fish to cross its path. Just a little ways down the shore from where we spotted the first croc, we hit it lucky again, a mugger sunning himself. These giant reptiles were driven to the brink of extinction by hide hunters, but protected status and captive breeding have brought it back. Another conservation success story. As we head out of the park, I would like to remind you of one of my basic safari rules. You may know where the park boundaries are, but the animals don't. So keep a watch for animals as you head to the hotel. A great safari is well rewarded with a comfortable hotel. There are no hotel facilities within the park's boundaries, but there are many choices just outside the park. Hotels at all price and comfort levels are readily available. You can decide how close to the park you want to be. Closer, of course, is more pricey. I had a chance to sit with Balandu after our safari to discuss his hotel and conservation issues affecting India.
Now, Ranthambore is particularly famous for the tiger. Why don't you tell us what other kinds of animals you could see in the park?
Ranthambore National Park is located in a spur of the Aravalli Mountains, which borders the Vindhya Mountains. So there are two mountain ranges and two different ecosystems that meet here. And it is a prime example of dry scrub forest. India has the last of the Asiatic lions. We have probably 50% of the world's wild tiger population. We have leopards, which are quite prolific. We have the last remaining snow leopards. We have the clouded leopard. These are some of the big cats that we have. Of course, the tiger, the top of the food chain, is the biggest draw for visitors coming to Ranthambore, and the dry nature of the forest makes it very visible. And it's a choice destination for wildlife photographers too. They do a count of animals every year, and at the last count, we counted 36 adults in this national park. But since that time, we've added almost 6 cubs that we know of.
As Balandu and I talked, the subject turned from wildlife to his hotel. There are, in fact, 2 types of rooms at Dev Villas: the hotel rooms with the unique double bathrooms and the tented rooms. Just because you sleep under canvas, you don't have to sacrifice luxury. Good beds and modern bathrooms make this a great place to unwind after the adventures of the day. Balandu's concern for the park is strong. He has volunteered to be the local representative for an innovative wildlife tourism group called Toft, tour operators for tigers.
Toft asks service providers to adhere to responsible tourism. One of the main objectives is to give benefits to the local community and the local area, along with encouraging tourists to practice responsible tourism and also educate them towards it.
The success of Project Tiger and organizations like TOFT hinge on employing locals and giving them a reason to preserve wildlife. After hearing Balandu talk about local involvement, I wanted to visit a local village to see some of the TOFT programs in action, in this case, tourism. The local people around Ranthambore National Park have learned to make a living in an area that is not prime agricultural land. The few crops grown here are harvested by hand. Each family owns their plot of land, and any production above self-sufficiency is sold or traded for other goods. The villagers are quite happy to welcome strangers into their village for a look around. The most important agricultural product in this rural economy is the cow. That may seem strange in a country where the cow is sacred. Hindus believe that the cow is the mother of life and should never be killed. In the rural areas of India, the cow still serves two important functions. One is to produce milk, and the other is to produce dung. Yeah, you heard me right. Cow dung is one of the major outputs of a cow. Its use? It is one of the major fuels burned in the homes during the cold season. Dried manure, as I have been told since I have admittedly not heated a home with cow droppings, is an efficient fuel that burns with little of the expected odor. The cow patties are made into, well, patties, and neatly stacked and then covered to endure the rainy season. You have to admire the ingenuity. Put grass in one end and get a renewable energy source out of the other. One of the most spectacular reasons to visit the villages around Ranthambore are the wall paintings. The style and quality of this folk art is astounding. The art portrays what they see in the bush, believe in religion, and experience in life. Art seems to be a way of life for these people, since not only do they paint houses, but they paint their animals as well. Art in Ranthambore area shows pride, a philosophical sophistication, and a strong sense of tradition. It is also something people miss if they just come to Ranthambore for the tigers. Back at the lodge, Balandu and I continue our conversation.
I hear there was an interesting pet that came along with your marriage.
I had escaped marriage for many years, but once I built this lodge, I think my family decided enough was enough. And my wife and I got married, and when she came here, she said, "Can I bring my pet along?" I said, "Absolutely, yes, I'll deal with the cat." And a few days later, a truck pulled up, and we have Pavan Kali, our 2-ton Asian elephant. And she's been a resident pet with us, and I've had to make a house for her and her handlers, but she is a beautiful and a gentle beast.
Balandu has been visiting Ranthambore since he was a young boy. The park's protective status has steadily increased since the time of the Maharajas, when Ranthambore was a private hunting reserve where hundreds of animals could be killed in a single hunt. In 1955, the park was made a wildlife sanctuary, and by 1981, a national park. Few parks can compete with Ranthambore for the bird species either. Keoladeo is one of the few that can. It is one of the best bird parks in the world, and is just about a 4-hour drive from Ranthambore. Ranthambore was a Maharaja's private hunting park, but that holds true also for Keoladeo Ghana National Park. Located within India's Golden Triangle between Jaipur and Agra, Keoladeo was originally a private duck reserve for the Maharaja's shooting parties. Now a UNESCO World Heritage Site, the 11-square-mile haven for aquatic and migratory birds is a bird watcher's paradise. The wetlands were man-made, created in the mid-1800s by digging canals and ponds in what had been a prairie. This attracted the ducks for hunting. What the Maharajas did for private use is now a national park open to all. There are several options for your bird viewing. You can walk through the park. You can boat through, that is, if you're there after the rainy season, or you can do what most do, kick back and let a rickshaw driver do the driving and bird identifying for you. Unfortunately, years of drought and siphoning off water for agricultural purposes have reduced the levels of the wetlands. The park management pumps this precious liquid into a limited area to maintain the wildlife habitat. To see some of the rare species of birds and other wildlife, we have to go deeper into the park, which is why we hired the rickshaw drivers. But hiring a rickshaw driver has another unintended result. It creates employment, which in turn gives locals the incentive to preserve and support the park. After discussions with the local guide, we decided to descend from the rickshaw and walk. We want to see as many species as we can in a couple of hours. Letting the guide know what you want to see and how long you have for the tour can optimize your visit. There is plenty to see here with over 400 species of birds. One of the bird species is the pond heron. Despite being one of the smaller members of the heron family, it is a prolific hunter. Eating insects, frogs, and even small snakes, this aquatic bird of prey strikes with lightning speed after slowly stalking its victim. The pond heron's larger cousin, the gray heron, is one of the bigger hunters of Keoladeo. Eating almost any animal it can swallow, fish, frogs, turtles, snakes, and even small mammals. Like the pond heron, the gray stalks its prey slowly, often pausing for long periods of time to let dinner come to it. Not all birds wait for the prey to come to them. The white-throated kingfisher actively pursues its favorite meal, fish. One of the most colorful birds in India, the kingfisher sits at the end of a branch and scouts the water for an unwary fish that comes to the surface to feed. The kingfisher strikes before the fish knows the bird is there. The predators of the park are not limited to birds. In fact, these moving islands are Indian mud turtles, some of the most dreaded predators in the park. The turtles can weigh over 100 pounds and live as many years. These seemingly slow, harmless moving rocks feed on swimming birds like ducks. Unlike the birds they feed on, turtles are cold-blooded or ectothermic, which means their body temperature is dictated by the surrounding air and water. Now let's take a look at some of the mammals of Keoladeo. One of the cutest and smallest is the three-lined palm squirrel, a bundle of energy always on the lookout for predators. These seed-eating rodents are one of the most common mammals seen in Keoladeo. On the other end of the size spectrum is the blue bull, which, unlike in Ranthambore, has no natural enemies here. Unfortunately, poaching still poses a problem and their status remains tenuous. In between in size, but with much more ferocious reputation, is the golden jackal, one of the most efficient scavengers and hunters in Keoladeo. The jackal has been persecuted by man for centuries, and yet not only endures, but thrives near people. One of the birds that the jackal hunts is a long-distance traveler who has no jackals to fear in its home territory. The comb duck, which gets its name from the large comb on the males, is a migrant from Mongolia. That's over 2,500 miles one way. One visit is not enough to absorb the diversity of Keoladeo Ghana National Park.
Well, as we wrap up another great wildlife adventure, let's take a look at some of the highlights.
In Ranthambore, we had a fabulous safari seeing langur monkeys, tigers, sandbar, spotted deer, blue bull, gazelle, mugger crocodiles, boar, and mongoose. Of course, we also saw the fort and visited a local village. Then we visited Keoladeo Bird Park, where our rickshaw ride brought us up to kingfishers, herons, rollers, and storks. But we also saw turtles, palm squirrels, and jackals, which proves in the animal world that you have to keep your eyes open, and you might get a great surprise.
I'm Bill Ball, and I'll see you on the next episode of Journeys in India.